Welcome everybody to another. This is going to be a really fun episode of Raising Starseeds because we get to talk about tarot and patriotism and what that looks like, being both spiritual and also wanting to know what's going on in the world. We're so excited to have the amazingly talented Jenny Constantine on the show today. Jenny, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you guys so much for having me. I've watched your show for a while, love the concept, and I'm just so glad that you guys decided to invite me on.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming to play. And I'm glad
Oh,
we
yeah.
got to hug at the conference. We got to
Oh,
see
yeah.
in person.
Lots of hugs. That was fun.
Yes. So I'm going to start the show off today with a little personal rant. And it's kind of like everything always comes in divine timing because Jenny's on the show today and I'd love to get her take on it. I've been having some issues scrolling through social media for over the past couple days. And, we're still in retrograde right now. And when we're in this season, things that, old traumas or old dogma or concepts or, stored emotions that we haven't fully dealt with, this is when they kind of come up to surface. So everyone's kind of on edge a little bit during this time. And, myself for sure a couple times. And I usually like to get my hands in the dirt when I know the inner monologue is a little not so kind or nice. So I get in the dirt. But people have been posting all of their old religious dogma on spirituality, energy, tarot, pendulums, and now all of a sudden these people that were on my feed are saying that this is the work of the dark, this is the work of the deep state, even saying that they brought this in to deceive us, and then putting in Bible verses in quotes there. And I always just find it so interesting that you can have these people that are consider themselves to be truthers. I live in rabbit holes, I go down all the research, all of the information, but yet they won't look at the Bible and realize that what we have right now is a heavily redacted, heavily manipulated, heavily controlled. It was, again, it's another tool that they have used to control people. Now, I'm not completely dogging on it. That's not what my intent is, but you have to at least understand that it has been greatly controlled and manipulated, and that's why like I love going into the deep, the sea scrolls, some of the real original teachings that haven't been touched yet. So I've been kind of on a unfriending blocking for the past few days of I can't live in that energy anymore. Saying that the work that we do is, which is trying to just to connect us to something divine, which is spirituality, connecting to ourselves, connecting to the earth, connecting to the cosmos, whatever you have it be, is now saying that that's dark. So, I mean, Jenny, I'm sure you get this.
I do. I get it a lot. I've gotten it so much that just in the past few years, as kind of like a means of trolling, I've embraced it fully, and I'll call myself a practicing witch. I am pretty bravado with my social media presence and my aesthetic because I think it's funny to watch people get really upset over something that they truly don't understand. They're mad and afraid of something that they don't understand, and it helps them to understand their world and the world around them by viewing everything from this very narrow framework, and it makes them feel comfortable to be within the confines of this dogma. So that's we leave them where they are, we leave them where they stand, where they sit. And yeah, I get it a lot. Folks think it's just a means of Satan and his minions to work through you. But I would argue that it doesn't work that way. I think all things are intention, and to study and practice the occult is not inherently good or evil. It has everything to do with what you're going to do with it. It's just the same thing with a gun. The instrument itself is just the instrument. It's just a tool. It's the user. it's the intent, it's you know, where it's being directed that makes all the difference in the world. So, you know, I think in the very beginning it bothered me, you know, when I really went, I made the transition from amateur reader to professional reader. It bothered me, especially because so many people that I found myself kind of magnetized to, Trump supporters, you know, people that became very patriotic, people you wouldn't even expect suddenly became very patriotic. And I found myself becoming friends with them, and they were part of my tribe. But the one threshold that they had never thought to even cross was, wait, can you be an America loving, you know, freedom loving patriot and also study and practice the occult? You know, so it was a very strange liminal space to be in, but I feel very up to that challenge, because I don't really care what people, if people think I'm evil, like, that's fine. I think it's funny. Like, it's amusing to me, because if they only knew it, you know.
They're literally just projecting their insecurities or their not knowing, you know,
Yeah.
what it's all about.
Ignorance.
Ignorance, fear of the unknown.
Yeah. And you know, and I think that's where some of my little rant comes from. Just like you said, Jenny, like if you only knew this beautiful work that we can do and that we can be connected to. And these are just like you said, how these are tools. It's just another way of communication. It's no different than the telephone. And you know, I mean, you can use
And
the
it can't,
yeah. Go ahead.
sorry, it can be used for evil. It can, like, it's like, but it's all about the user. So why does that dismiss then all the good you can do for it? You know?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So Jenny, give us a little bit of your background and how I know, you know, if the audience doesn't know, Jenny does amazing tarot reads. She's read me just a couple months ago. Just kind of give us your background a little bit and what led you to it.
Sure. So I have kind of a weird, I guess everybody's background is kind of weird. It's all relative, right? But I was born into what you would consider a deep state family. So my father is intelligence, US intelligence. He works for the State Department. He worked for Hillary Clinton's State Department in the 90s. And I was raised overseas, mostly on in around government and military installations overseas. And so having that background, and at the time not knowing the whole scope of things, because obviously, you know, I was a kid, and all I knew was my world, and yet I knew that something was fundamentally off. I couldn't put my finger on it until I became an adult and had perspective, because I had been other places and learned other things. But my upbringing was kind of like on the inside of things, looking out. And so I've always had I guess you could say, I feel like I was supposed to be born into that kind of a family so that I could break out of it, essentially. And then to kind of, with my experience and with what I learned, I was able to talk to people like us that were, you know, awake and knew that something has always been wrong, but kind of with a different perspective, because I know how these people think. I know how they operate. I know how their ranks work. I know how they treat their children. I know how they treat their children and families as opposed to how they treat everybody else, and the line between what is in their world and everything, you know, everything outside of the castle, if you will, is nothing to these people, nothing. I found tarot when I was about 23 years old, which seems late in life, but obviously I'd heard of it. I knew what it was, but I didn't really. I found this deck. I was very guided to this deck. This is the Thoth deck, and it's probably the best, in my opinion. It's the best deck out there. But then I just picked up this codex of symbolism and, you know, numerology and alchemy and astrology, and it was like a language that I felt like I had always known. It was more like remembering. It felt a lot more like I was putting pieces back together of a puzzle that had been broken for me. So it all came back to me very quickly. You know, I have 3 children. I spent most of my 20s raising those children at home, kind of in the dark, you could say, just in terms of my own personal power and my identity, who I was as a woman. Kind of got lost in the sauce between trying to make things work with partners that were not right for me, trying to be a modern mom and hold everything together. But at the same time, there was this light inside of me that was just, she was going to come out. And it really became a matter of the circumstances around me, what those circumstances would look like at the time that she kind of exploded. And that happened around 27, 28, just the start of my Saturn return. But tarot has been with me since, really when I needed it. As soon as I truly needed it, it showed up, as most tools and guides usually do. And it's carried me. It's been this tool to help me make sense of what's going on in the world, kind of like how Christians do with their dogma. But these symbols have always been a steady reminder for me. They ground me. And now this is what I do as my job. So I hope that helps. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people, they think that these tools are only used for a very specific purpose or for nefarious reasons, but you can use these just in, I call it like modern intuition. And that is how we can use these skills and abilities in everyday life. And this is just another tool. I was just talking to my daughter. She had a test this morning, and she told me, "Oh, well, I did a pendulum read last night to see how it would go and if I would pass." And they gave me a huge yes, so I wasn't nervous. So just even using them for simple things like that, and really what they're doing is they're removing the ego. That's really what it is, because ego stands in our way so often, and ego is the matrix system, things that are put in there, that everything should be hard. And sometimes we use these tools to show that things don't have to be so hard, and we are supported, and things will be fine if we believe and move forward.
It's never really as bad as you think it is. And even when the situation is that bad, tarot will always show you doors that you didn't know were there. Aspects of support that are there that you don't see because you're so blinded by emotion and fear, and the element of time very often stands in the way. If people only realized what you are freaking out about right now, it will be something else in a week, a month, 6 months, so it really does help to temper people's emotional knee-jerk reactions to any given situation. So often it's really bad in here. But the reality is like, well, there's so many peripheral things going on. So, and that's been my favorite part of this, is really just giving people peace of mind. More times than not, what people already intuitively believe about a situation is true. More like 9 times out of 10, people already know exactly why they're coming and the answers to their questions. They know. And so seldom have I revealed anything to anyone that they are just absolutely shocked to hear is going on. It's more like, and I find it's very helpful to let people know, like, no, you were right. Like, you're on point with what you already think is going on here. The cards will mirror the truth to you.
Yeah.
So
like confirmation and validation.
Confirmation, yeah.
Which is all high vibe stuff. Everybody leaves happy.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, that's the majority of my reads too, is people saying, I know that. Yeah, I knew. I know. I know. It's always, that always happens. But I use tarot as kind of like my cleanup crew sometimes. I'll go, you're in speaking with spirit, doing mediumship, psychic work, and then I'll go and I'll pull some cards. It's kind of like, is there anything I missed? That's kind of more like grounded, and because the cards don't ever lie, they will.
Really don't.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Do you work with your kids with the cards? Like, what's their take on you doing this?
So my sons, not so much. I mean, they think it's great, and but they didn't take to it quite the way my daughter did. She has her own deck of cards, and I know a lot of Christians have jumped on me about that, because I'm very open about this stuff. There's nothing to hide, And so she has a deck of cards. It's called the Cat Tarot, and I highly suggest it because it also teaches the children Roman numerals. I mean, it, not that they need to know that, but there's, they're learning the symbols of the zodiac. They're learning the basics of numerology and alchemy. They're learning about the principal elements of earth, water, air, fire, and ether. All of these things serve as a wonderful foundation to what I'm sure you guys make it your business to talk about these things, but it's a type of alternative education. They're never going to learn about actual alchemy and numerology in public school or even like private school. It's just never going to happen. And yet these fundamental principles, these building blocks of all life on earth, as well as source, the template of source consciousness, when they learn at this age, I mean, they can kind of bypass a whole lot of bull crap that we had to go through as teenagers and young adults, trying to just get back to these fundamental principles, as I feel like we took the long way. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I was bending over backwards trying to find answers that were really quite simple, and they're in everything and they're everywhere. And tarot is a really wonderful way to teach kids about the archetypes of humanity, the cycles and eons that humans have gone through historically. It's all in there. It's a story. It tells a story. It's a journey of humankind and the human story, essentially. So she's taken to it because she doesn't remember a time when mommy wasn't doing tarot readings. This is what is normal to her. This is her comfort zone. But my kids, their father and I were not, my boys, he was probably my biggest lesson in life, was this man who was the complete opposite of me, not awakened spiritually in any way, shape, or form. So I've had to kind of relinquish a lot of what I guess would be controls over them, my sons, because this was their karma too, to have a father who said no to such things. But they are getting older. That's a wonderful thing about kids. They grow and they eventually will make up their own minds about it. But whenever they're ready, I'm here. They both have their own decks of cards. Oh, make no mistake, I'm like, here, and they're like, oh, cool, thanks mom.
Yep.
You
absolutely.
probably have to teach a lot of protection too, right? You teach them. I know for the naysayers out there, like when I told my mom my daughter's interested, she's like, "Oh, she'll open up things." I go, "Well, that's why I want to teach her the right protection and the right way to do it."
So actually, no. I mean, I personally, I don't, because I believe that inherently they have the protection of God, because their intention coming into it could never be anything other than innocent. And also, I don't like to the idea or the notion that there's something to be afraid of, or that there's something to protect yourself from. I think, although we know as adults that has its place, I never want to reinforce the notion that there is anything in their way, that there is anything obstructing them that they need to shield from. Because I just tend to believe that their templates are so, they're bulletproof. You know what I mean? I mean, that's a kind of an insensitive term to use in light of recent events, but I just I think the people that really need protection going into those things are people that have fear, and they have a sense of, oh God, there are things lurking out there coming to get me. Those things lurking out there that you think are coming to get you, they only see you if you see them. Otherwise, they do not see you. So Don Juan, and who studied Castaneda's, who's a shaman, your people know all about this. He said that to these entities, the only thing that you really have to be afraid of are these entities, that you are literally invisible to those entities if you are not emitting any emotional output. So if you're not afraid, they literally can't detect you. It's like a sense. It's, fear is a smell, fear is a resonance. And if you don't have it, they literally just will glide over you, for lack of a better term. So I just say, no, there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah. My youngest, she has actually two little decks, and one's a tarot and one's an oracle deck. But you know, it's a fairy tarot deck and it's a unicorn oracles. And you know, unicorn's one of her spirit animals, and
Yeah.
it brings her so it's just so much, it's just joy, it's just fun when she's playing with them and doing, you know, little reads. And so there's very, very approachable cards that the kids can use, and they're all just very inspiring, beautiful messages. I think that was part of like my earlier rant, is if people only knew only
Yeah, if
knew.
they only knew the benefits of it all.
And it's just it's beautiful. And when you work with things, these beautiful messages, and I know I'm saying like beautiful 8 times, but I really don't know another word. The English language is so limited.
It's the worst.
It's the
It's
worst.
literally the worst. It's so bad.
Yes. But you're right, it's the intention that you're putting in behind it. 100%. It is about the reader, you know. And it all started off with, I took this course with a man in the UK, and it all started out as just a literal card game, just like we have, you know, you play spades or euchre. It's the same. That's how it started out, was literally just a card game. And
That's
then
right.
another man came in and he found that, oh, I can actually, you know, we can actually use these cards to do different things. When I was in college, I went to a reader and she just had literally what you would play euchre with.
Oh,
She
yeah.
had those playing cards, and she was 100% on point on every single thing. And they were just playing cards. I mean, for anyone else, it was just 3s of diamonds and 5 of clubs, but it was,
You saw something else.
she saw something else. And that is another thing too, is the more you're working in that energy, it's almost showing your guides, or whoever you're reading their guides, saying, well, they're ready to have a communication, they're ready to connect. And you will start getting, you know, your other clairs will start to turn on, and you can get messages that way, because really they're just trying to figure out how to reach us. And because it's so, you know, this third, it's so dense here, it's so hard to get through. And so that's why we call them tools, you know, just like a phone. And I was, you know, kind of saying earlier, you can use a phone to call somebody and tell them off and be really hateful, or you can use a phone to call somebody and tell them how much you love them. You know,
True. Right? That's a great analogy. I never really thought of that.
Yeah, you know, and it's the same way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but yeah, you know, it's something that I've enjoyed with my girls. My son, just like he's not interested at all.
Yeah, there's other things for boys, you know, and I will say too, traditionally speaking, because divination has been around for so long, diviners within the tribe were traditionally, and more typically they were women. And this is just something that comes more naturally. And look, whoever you are, whatever you are, you want to read tarot. I don't tell anybody what to do. But traditionally it is a feminine trait to call down these archetypes and be an interpreter for that kind of information. Males are certainly blessed diviners. I know a lot of blessed, talented male tarot readers, but traditionally speaking, the diviners were female. And it just, you know, especially with the modern kids these days, you know, they need to be out learning about, you know, the earth in a much more hands-on, you know, tangible way. So I'm all about that. But I get a lot of crap because I think, you know, all the kids should learn how to hunt and fish and live off the land and, you know, all that. I'm not really a modern. I tried to do the whole modern country mom thing, and I failed miserably. I'm like, this is crap. None of this makes sense.
That's okay, because all the things you just listed are intended to empower and give confidence and have them hold their own. Some of the crunchy stuff is still very much dependent on the crunchy, you know, that's all.
Right. Exactly.
That stuff.
There's a meme out there, and it's so weird because right before we jumped on here, that meme came to mind, and I was like, I wonder if, you know, I'm gonna feel guided to bring it up, and sure enough, I do. But it was like, and I'll send it to you guys after. But it's a it's a picture of a man holding his hands like this, and the caption says, "My ancestors who fended off wild animals watching me order an $18 oat milk latte for DoorDash because I'm too lazy to leave my yeah, you know, we're over here like, where did they put the peanut butter? What aisle?" And meanwhile, our ancestors were like, "Holy crap, it's a saber-toothed tiger. Everybody run," you know? So, yeah, we got to get back to the basics, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. And like you were saying, even Roman numerals, so you have the kids doing the Waldorf curriculum, Steiner.
Oh, excellent.
Roman numerals is very much a part of it. They're all about sacred geometry. They're all about the mystery schools and the Roman numerals and everything, the symbols. Yeah, that's very much a part of it. So,
I love that so much.
Yeah. And cursive is like the basic, and they hand make all their own textbooks, but the teacher themselves, they're also now talking about crystals and like the energy and vibrations of crystals. So my son, who's 8, he's not taking up tarot very much, but he's into the pendulum right now, because I think for him it's like a tangible, he can see it moving and see it working.
Oh my God.
But my daughter's getting fascinated with the tarot, and I'm noticing her confidence is opening up. Like she's just connecting to source and connecting to her higher self directly. So yeah. And I do hope at some point before we finish recording, if you could would you be able to pull some cards for the collective, for the Starseeds?
Absolutely. I would love to.
When you feel called.
No, we can do it right now, because what I wanted to say was, and Abby, you mentioned it, you were talking about how, you know, the messages that come through, you know, the client, the querent, whomever, they were ready to hear it. And so, you know, it's like, they're ready. This is the time to do it. And like the reason why the readings work is because we very deeply trust in the mechanism of synchronicity. So it was, people say, you know, when I first started, you know, my old friends, I'm not friends with them anymore, but they'd be like, "Well, what makes you think that card means anything? It was just by chance you happen to pull that card, and now you're applying all of this meaning to the card." And I said, "Well, I think you know, you're half right. We certainly do assign meaning to symbols. This is what humans do. We assign meaning to everything. That's how we live. That's how we function here. But synchronicity is different. Synchronicity is the wholehearted acceptance that everything that you are experiencing is an interface between yourself and God, or source, or divine creator, whatever you want to call it. And so the idea of coincidence and chance and, you know, that sort of thing, for the most part, those things go out the window. And especially when we're doing a tarot reading, or any kind of a reading, the mechanism of synchronicity assures that what comes up is exactly what was supposed to come up. So it's not random, you know, and if it was, it wouldn't be as accurate as it is.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. You know, I'm sure maybe you feel the same way, Jenny, but the more you work with these tools of divination, I'm to the belief that when the cards are flipped over, they're actually, all of them are blank.
Oh, I love that.
And when you when you flip them over, they literally manifest for the proper message. That's just where I'm at with it, because it's the only way that you can explain it, because they are always right on target.
They really are. So this message, this card, and I'll probably pull 2, is for everybody in the Raising Starseeds community, that entire tribe, everybody listening to this transmission at this time or at any point in the future. This message is for the Raising Starseeds community. And I'm going to do 3 shuffles because there's 3 of us.
Okay.
All right. So we've got, so we have some interesting energies here. Now, warning, this particular deck, I don't recommend this deck to a fresh beginner. I'm drawn to extremes. I always have been. So when I first got started, I wanted the big guns. I wanted, give me the whole thing, you know, I just sink my teeth into it because that's just my style. But Uh, this is not a beginner's deck. The images are very visceral, and the colors, it's a very emotionally charged deck. So this isn't for someone that is prone to anxiety, fear, anything like that. So first two cards I got were the Seven of Pentacles and the Three of Swords. So this card, the Seven of Pentacles, is for some reason in this deck, the colors evoke almost like a depressive state, because there are, you know, some dark blues and purples, and there's some blackness in there. And then the Three of Swords, as we all know, this is difficult. This is hard. It typically refers to opposing views, you know, sometimes it's separations. My gut feeling as soon as I saw, and then the third card was the Ace of Pentacles, which is wonderful. Probably one of the most potent cards of stability and clarity in the deck. Also a great card for physical health. And so I'm glad to see this because what this shows me here, this for a message for your people, everybody in your community. I think that this implies everybody, I think what I'm getting is a reflection of everybody's current sense of, we've invested years into these kids. We have invested, because this is all about investments of energy and then what you're getting back. But sometimes it's worrying about whether or not you've done enough. It's worrying about preparations, worrying about whether or not this pace can be sustained is really what I'm getting. I'm getting something here about someone definitely in your community that is having a very serious, some kind of a custody battle, or some kind of a very serious, very tumultuous back and forth, possibly with a co-parent, and possibly with other people. Someone in the co-parents tribe might have a very big family and is making this very difficult for this person right here. Also too, I'm just getting a lot of pressure right now. There could be people that, you know, in the community that started several projects. They could have laid the groundwork or had a great plan for some kind of a, you know, something alternative. It looks like a type of separation where they're trying to move away and do something different, but they're running into some roadblocks right now. A couple things to keep in mind though, because we're in the middle of a really nasty inflation and smack dab in the middle of what I believe is a type of controlled demolition. This is a real crunch time for people financially, and also just in terms of like looking at the future creates a lot of anxiety in the present, specifically in terms of living arrangements, living situation, viability of travel, that sort of thing. Because this message does speak to anxiety. I'm not going to lie. Okay. There are some real worries here about if I can't do this alone. So someone specifically, or several people specifically, might be doing everything in their power to get in alignment with a co-parent or other members of the tribe, almost in preparation for something. The month of July is coming up, the next 3 months in particular. So the next 3 months, right? And then July, something happens in July. I tend to believe, actually, now this is starting to make a little bit more sense. I've done reads on the collective for the month of July 2022, and I'm going to make a prediction. I believe that some powerful female, my gut is always bringing me to Melania and her team, her people, but there's something brought to the American people in regards to agriculture, food processing, food production, and healthcare. Like all of these things it's like they come forward with some kind of a solution come July. And it's more of like a proposition because they can't actually implement it just yet, but it looks like it's a seed, you know, this precious seed, this coin, and they're like, here, this is a possible solution. And then when we consider that we're in a political dog and pony show here, it makes sense that they would come forward with this the month of July, right before the fall, which is going to be a lot of fun, guys. So I hope that message reaches who it needs to. The Ace of Pentacles as the outcome tells me that this Three of Swords is temporary. Because after the Three of Swords is the Four of Swords, which is rest after a period of argumentation, lots of conflict and going back and forth. And then the Seven of Pentacles, you know, this is a card that talks about, holy crap, you know, sevens are very transient. They're always that fulcrum point. There's a reason we call it lucky number 7. Who knows what's going to happen next? Do you know what I mean? So it's a feeling of, oh my gosh, like, you know, kind of walking the tightrope right now. But don't worry, you guys. Ace of Pentacles is your outcome tells this is something solid for you to step on. You know, so you're not going to, you can step on this and you're not going to sink. So this is a good indicator. Thank God. Because I saw those first two, I was like, oh no. See, it's never up to me what comes up. It's not. And those messages had nothing to do with me or what I wanted to share at all. Because if it did, I would have, you know, shared something a lot happier looking. But that's what they had to hear. So,
well, thank you so much. And you know, that just hit home directly. And it was more confirmation for something that came through from Spirit for me a few days ago. And it was for everybody. And it's about how a lot of people were feeling like everything's completely coming undone.
yeah.
And, you know, and it's all around us. And I think for sure everyone is feeling the pinch and a lot of anxiety. A lot of, we don't like, how much higher are the gas prices going to go?
Yeah.
We need to be stocking on food. Yeah. I mean, there's just so many things that are up in the air, but the follow-up immediate message from Spirit for everybody was, when things look like they're coming undone, trust that they're coming together. And it was very much like, on the backside, things that you guys can't see, things that we can't see right now are all lining up exactly how they're supposed to be. And we need to be this. I mean, again, this is all about faith. I mean, I believe that the past 2 years has really been about testing our faith and just,
so too.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that the fall is going to be really interesting. I think August is actually, feel like something's going to happen in August. Energetically, at least. I don't know about the rest, but energetically, something really big is going to come in August.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, shoot, I took it as like a personal reading, like everything you were like saying. I was, because we have situations with stepfather adopting and biological has been MIA again, and then yeah, worries. I'm like, do I get another credit card to get through the summer camps? Like, I mean, everything you were saying, I was just like.
Isn't that so funny? But listen, the message still stands. The Ace of Pentacles, like, not only is it the support that you need, but it implies a period of consistent support. So it's not like, for example, the Six of Pentacles would be someone throwing you, you know, some kind of a bone. It's money that kind of comes out of nowhere. It's help, it's support, but it's not necessarily sustainable. It's not necessarily enough to carry you through. But the Ace of Pentacles is completely different because it does imply the bones. So in a very mundane, traditional sense, the Ace of Pentacles is like your literal skeleton, and the integrity of the skeletal structure. And the same goes for the skeletal structure of a home, of a business plan, of a bug out plan, you know. So this does imply that the bones are good, the plan is stable, and you can move forward on solid ground.
Awesome.
I love that. I mean, just
we should high five, Abby.
I know.
High five that
just, you know, looking at the symbols on the Ace of Pentacles cards, when I saw that, I'm like, oh wow, that's sacred geometry. And it builds. It builds on itself as it goes out. So yeah, it's that foundation is going to be set there that we can build off of.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yay! Thank God. So it's just gonna be. It's been a tumultuous spring, you know, pretty much ever since the election was rigged and this heist has gone on for a couple of years. This is definitely like the doldrum. This is where, like you said, our faith being tested. I personally believe that the military is in control. I just do. I think that this is one epic of cosmic proportion show. I really, really do believe that. But there are factions of the military that were ordained. They were essentially sanctioned to step up at this during this time. So I personally well, I have anxieties about little things, and we all do. I don't have fear. I don't feel doom. Some terrible things have happened in my life, and I guess it's all relative. Terrible things happen to everybody. But I knew at least 24 hours in advance that they were coming. I've woken up with the entire left side of my body just chills that wouldn't stop for hours and hours, and terrible visuals, and feel you just, and then that night something absolutely life-changing would take place. And I sit with myself and I'm like, Jenny, are you smoking the hopium? Are you listening to, too much right-wing propaganda? Are you kidding yourself? Are you allowing other people's hopium to give you, I'm very honest with myself about whether I'm full of crap, or if I'm crazy, or if I'm crazy and I'm also onto something, you know what I mean? And the deepest points of my system, of my being, I know that everything is coming into place and that we're not going to fail. I just know it. So that fear is just dismissed. It's like, phew, bye.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And anytime I'm ever just like Jenny, like I have absolutely, we come on and these shows and Heidi, we're all joking and laughing, and there's some real heavy stuff going on in the world. And I don't want people to take as though we're trying to like gaslight that. I mean, believe me,
No.
I absolutely throw some F bombs in my house when I'm finding out about some situations. And there's been moments where I have just wanted just to sit on the ground and be like, what is even going on? But then the very next thought and feeling is, no, like it's already done. Like
Yeah.
we just have to get through this show
Yeah.
right now. And I do, when you energetically feel, even just feel into this,
Yeah.
it doesn't even feel real
It
anymore
doesn't.
going
It
on.
doesn't.
No.
Because we've all been through real stuff
Yeah.
Yeah.
where it was like you're in it, you are in the game, you're like, whoa, whoom, whoom. But
Yes.
when you look around and you see the theater of it all,
Mhm.
you're like, and this is not to say that people don't really die and that lives are not destroyed, because
Yeah.
the cabal, the powers that were pulling a lot of this stuff off,
Yep.
they have no regard for human life, human loss.
No.
None. It's
None.
nothing to them
None.
whatsoever. They
Yep.
piss
Casualties
it
of
away.
war.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But it's like snuff theater. It
Yeah.
really, it's full blown. Yeah.
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 Casualties of war there. And
Casualties.
it's literally tests on where you are in your humanity and how you're handling yourself, I think. Because our local little gas spot, we've hit like almost 650. And so I'm filling the
Oof.
tank and we're not I'm driving less. I'm choosing not to go to things just for the drive. And then instead of going and like getting down, I'm like, okay, I balanced it out with some good vibes, and I get home, and then Marching books like this awesome, the giant books of job, and their checks in the mail. I'm like, okay, energy. How are we going to roll
Energy.
with this? And
Yes.
so you can either constrict your heart and hurt your body and freak out, right, Bo? See, Bo agrees.
Oh.
He just jumped up.
Aw.
Yeah, how do you handle yourself during this?
Yep.
But I as well, no fear. I feel
Yep.
like it's coming to us. It's gonna get over.
Yep.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah.
I actually just did, I was working with a client just yesterday, and they were discussing a lot of anxiety that they deal with. And so Spirit showed me, we actually ran through a meditation, and we started off the meditation with actually bringing in and calling in the energies to really, really amp up. And we were sitting cross-legged across from each other so that our energies could multiply, but bringing in to essentially recreate the physical feelings of when you're having an anxiety attack. Okay, like you're feeling like your heart starts to race, and your ribs, start to kind of compress, and you can actually,
Yeah.
and we are getting it spinning really, 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 really fast. And it was so funny because you can actually, like, our arms actually started squeezing in on the sides of it because it
Oh
was going in.
Lord.
And we protected the space. This was all being done. We were using our own energy to do this, by the way. So I
Right.
wasn't
Yeah.
bringing anything outside. This is our own.
No.
Yep, this is our own energy. We just asked the energy to amplify. Okay, so this is all visual intention. And then, once we got to that place where, okay, we are feeling the physical effects of what it feels like when there's anxiety, other people's energy coming in around us that make us feel uncomfortable. And what they did then was they actually, I handed her a crystal, but we don't always have a crystal in our life, but it was just a representative of bringing that focused in front of us. And essentially, like in the Matrix movie, it's, Neo's walking down the street and everything behind him just becomes really, really blurred. And it's because he's so focused on where he's going and being able just to stay in this physical place that all the energy, it just starts to just fade away and it pushes out. And like by bringing our light and our energy in alignment and just like holding that crystal and holding that light, that heart space light outside of us, but just moving and just getting our feet left, right, then everything else can start to dissipate. So like when we're feeling that we're in those high anxiety or really feeling everybody's energy amplifying up around us, just practicing and knowing how to stay laser focused on just of like, what am I doing right now? Focusing on my soul mission, my energy, and not allowing it to come in. And it was a really great practice. I was grateful that Spirit showed that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Could all use that.
Yeah.
Because I try to tell people too, when's it gonna pop? When's it all gonna go down, Jenny? And I'm like, well, my understanding is that there is a plan. Okay. As soon as we understand that there are multiple factions contending with each other, and this is not as simple as one side versus the other. There are a ton of factions in the middle that are gray. These are essentially ancient gang wars. We are in the middle of ancient gang wars between major players here. And they each have their own idea of the timeline. They each have their own plan as to when this happens, when that happens, that sort of thing. So, but one aspect of those plans that they're kind of just up in the air about, which is what the human populace, specifically the Western psyche, all of my work, I tend to focus on the Western psyche because this is our country, this is our land. And instead of helping everybody all at once, I'm like, let's focus on America right now. The American people actually get a say in when a lot of these things happen, because the mechanism of the Great Awakening always since its inception factored in the organic natural response of the human element in the Western world. So they're banking on us. When I say they, I mean the negative powers, the negative factions. They're banking on the American people and their inherent racial trauma over many generations of trauma and slavery. They're banking on us making all kinds of mistakes from a place of fear and emotion. So, people like us, and especially you guys, because you've come together and you've collaborated and you've reached so many people with your work, it's like this, what we're doing here is attempting to get everybody in alliance with each other so that they know, like, there's so much strength in knowing that you're not the only one doing this. And then when, I call us all spaceships. I like to tell people I'm composed of 100% organic, homegrown starship. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm made of. And you get all of these starships together. It's amazing. There's nothing that we can't do. And that element was always a variable for the powers. That's the one thing that they can't control is they'll do everything to control it. They'll, the shootings, the food, everything. There's nothing that they won't do.
I know. And people do have to realize that they are willing to go all the way to the end. And
they're not going to stop.
No. Yeah. I'm circling back to one of you. Sorry about that before the dog had to run out. But someone had said about when people are like, when are things going to happen? I'm constantly like, it's always happening. Not only are we cyclical in these manufactured narratives, but things have been unrolling and unfolding left and right. I'm just like, if you're lost or you need like a source, focus on yourself. What's happening with you? Are you getting healthy? Are you lightening up? Are you blowing up your Merkaba and just like lighting up the planet? Like, what are you doing? But because I see a lot of stuff happening on the planet. Every little dramatic event that happens just is part of it, just looks like a pattern. So I feel like it's all happening. So our work, less time looking outside ourselves for the answers and more like contributing.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've been at a place for so many months now that I already know it's already done. And so I've felt this drive to really get ready for when it really pops off, because there's going to be such a huge need for the intuitives, the healers, the media, all of this work to help everybody. So I've been driven like, okay, like I need to already just be focused on the ending, on the end, because what they need to do to get us there doesn't really involve me, because my soul obviously didn't choose to go into the military and to be a soldier and actually doing the boots on the ground during this. And so that's why it's important, like, to kind of understand what your mission was, and to stay within that lane, and just like you said, Heidi, like, what are you doing? And so, because that's really all that we control, is going within in ourselves and our direct physical environment.
And we're all moms. We're all moms raising this next generation who's going to either enjoy the fruits of our labors, or they're going to continue battling as they just try to get more people on board. So we're going to arm them with as much tools and skills, the hunting, the gathering, the armed, like all of the skills to take this, to keep unfolding and keep awakening. But I have a feeling they'll be good when they're older.
Oh yeah, they're good to go. They were born with everything they needed, I feel like.
100%. I mean,
as were we.
And we're getting completely off the slave train. So
Choo choo. See you later.
I was talking to somebody over the weekend, and I had mentioned, I told them, I said, well, that we're all slaves, and that triggered them a little bit, that how would I have the audacity to compare myself to what is the American understanding of slavery here that we've had in our country. And I said, no, you need to understand this. And so I just ran through the scenarios of what would happen. You own your house in full, okay, but you haven't paid your property taxes. What happens to your house? Oh, okay. Oh, you own your car, you bought your car, okay, but you don't want to do a title or registration, or you don't want insurance. What would happen to your car? It gets towed, right? Like, it gets so I go, so you own nothing. And it was just it was just their realization of, oh my God. And that's what I go, that's how you're a slave. You actually own nothing. And but then you go to the spiritual side and you realize no one really should like, we're all living here. Yes, exactly. We're all living here together. And it's interesting, Jenny, because I feel like the energy is in such an alignment of being this spiritual patriot, and a lot of people don't understand how you can be both. And I get a lot of flack for things I post on social media, because there's like, Abby, it doesn't align with the work that you do, and you don't really post about that. Everything you ever post about is what's going on in the world. And it was the best. I was sitting next to a guy on an airplane, and it was after I was leaving ESETI, and I was reading Tranced, Kathy O'Brien's book. And if you guys have not read that book, it is an absolute must read.
It's mandatory.
It is. It's a mandatory read. So I was reading that.
Yeah.
And the guy next to me asked, he's like, oh, what are you flying? Oh, why are you on the plane? And so I said, well, I just spoke at, a spiritual convention, and, this is what I do, and I'm an intuitive medium. And he goes, huh. And then about 5 minutes later, he goes, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure
Love it.
I'm just trying to figure out how you said you do this work, but you're sitting here reading a book about CIA mind control. And he goes, how? And I looked at him and I said, because it's all connected.
Mhm.
It's all connected. And that's kind of like the next huge jump is realizing how they are.
Mhm.
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 So, I mean, Jenny, how do you feel about
Well, I mean, it's so weird. Like, I really believe that we're born into like exactly the lives, the incarnations that we're meant to. And I don't mean to sound callous because there are people that are born into just horrifying situations. I don't think that that necessarily means that they wanted that, deserved that, or chose that. Just want to put that out there. I think it's more complex than that. But because my background is fundamentally government and military, I tried joining 3 different branches of the military at 3 different junctures in my life, and all 3 times I was extracted. And I don't use that term lightly. I was extracted from that timeline, things completely out of my control. I had MEP states. I've taken the ASVAB twice. I've been through the whole battery, the whole gamut for the Marines, the National Guard, and the Army. And all 3 times it fell completely to pieces. And the last time it happened was just a couple years ago. I almost did it. And just the jaws of life said, nope, this is not your path. You will not. And that was before the COVID hit. I would have been forced to take a vaccine or lose all of my benefits, everything I would have planned my life around at the time. So thank God, thank the forces of, source for extracting me out of those situations. And yet, you guys know me, I'm a huge advocate for military service and also the concept of nationalism. I love our country. I don't love the United States of America Incorporated, but that is not a reflection of the original republic and the blueprint of the free republic of our people, the people of this land. And so I really think this is a simple case of re-educating people. And so often people make the assumption that you can't be both a tarot reader, astrologer, intuitive medium, psychic, what have you, and also be a patriotic American. Like those 2 ideas really can overlap when what you value is a free republic, free people, and some semblance of government that has integrity and transparency. And so that it's really that simple. And I advocate military service because I believe that it is an archetype, the archetype of the soldier, of the warrior, whether you're male or female, to uh, essentially fight and in some cases, in a lot of cases, die for an ideal. But mostly, if you ask anybody, that has been out there, they're not dying for a cause. They're not dying for freedom and liberty. They're dying for each other. And that is something that only seasoned warrior, seasoned soldier, or veteran will tell you, is that they're not out there for the flag. They're just not. They're out there for the boys. They're out there for their guys. And that's a family bond that people that have never seen combat we can't ever, we can try, we can empathize, and I try to be there. I remember lives where I was in battle, died in battle loads of times. And so like, I hold on to that and I get emotional about it because I'm like, there is no, those bonds are forged in the type of pressure. It's like a galvanization process when you die in combat for your friends or your loved ones. And I believe that the soul is actually evolved. There's a wonderful piece of literature by a philosopher, a brilliant man named Julius Evola, called The Metaphysics of War. And he goes into it at great detail that the archetype of the warrior, the soldier, very, very much has a place in our world. And so I don't advocate war and useless fighting, but if this whole thing is essentially a school, a place for God and source to translate itself into human form and human consciousness and learn, then we actually do learn a lot when we fight for something. So, and death, what is death? Death is just the beginning anyways. So you're reanimated, you're thrown back into it, and now you've got a ton of brownie points because you're like, "Grr, grr," you know what I mean? And I don't think there's nothing romantic or glorious about war. There isn't. But in the moment of that type of sacrifice, and we see that type of sacrifice, we see when mothers who die in childbirth, parents who die for their children, all kinds of things happen. People die in a moment of self-sacrifice and service to others. That's what it's about. And so that's why I support our military, because it's, you know, we need, first of all, our country needs defending. We have a lot of enemies. And I just believe that, and we all know that for the longest time, most of our resources have been either imported or exported. We are not a self-sufficient country anymore. So, and you brought up such a good point about like the insurance companies and car companies. They were designed so that we are not actually allowed to own anything. Same thing for the real estate market, you know, the housing market, the banking system. All of these systems do have to crumble. And that is going to be very tumultuous and very painful for everybody that has been made dependent on these systems. But they have to fall. They have to, before anything else can be brought into its place. But I do tend to believe that the systems that will replace those are already being built behind the scenes. I think that those plans are already being made. But to your point about, you know, how can you be a patriot and also, you know, a spiritual person? Well, I think it's just a matter of being a little bit more open-minded. You know, the left and certain liberal schools of thought tried to program everybody with the emotional sensitivity that would typically guide you into the spiritual path. They redirected that energy into being really, really mad about stupid things like gender inequality and just crap. Yeah, I know powerful women that didn't give two craps about gender inequality. Like they just made it happen. So if you're not a victim, you won't be, the world will not treat you like a victim if you don't believe that you're a victim. So the people that might have been wonderful shamans and readers and diviners and intuitives, they were targeted by these liberal schools of thought, and their emotional sensitivity and all of their prowess and their abilities were directed into other things, becoming a victim and, you know, BLM this and whatever the big, you know, flavor of the week was in terms of manufactured outrage. You know, you live in a, you know, arguably like the greatest country in the world, and you're crying about something stupid. So it's like those were the kids that needed other guidance. Like, no, but you know, you can do so much more. So that's my spiel on that.
Yeah. Yep. Well, you know, and it's also, you know, being spiritual is while you're existing here in this 3D plane is being very grounded. And if you're going to be grounded, you need to be grounded in the physical space of which your soul chose to be born on.
Yes.
Like grounded in your soil. And that to me is, you know, I love where I live. I love this country that I've chosen to incarnate, and I've chosen to raise my children, and I want all of us to be free. I want every single one of us. You know, it did come through very strongly though from spirit about a year ago, and it made me very emotional that the entire earth is our birthright. And you know, I think I was kind of probably in a place where I was really wanting to travel, and I couldn't because of the blip. And you know that these structures saying, you know, well, you know, you can't travel to our country because of this. And I'm like, this entire planet is our birthright. Like that's just another form of, you know, control. If I want to go and see the beauty that is on this planet, I should be free to do so. But yes, so it's something that's we were joking before we started recording that it's probably an Andromedan aspect in a lot of us, the spiritual patriots.
Oh yeah, that's funny. I don't think I have any, you know, I've never done a like a star family ancestral type of reading. Pretty much the only ETs that I feel a sense of resonance with, and it is a strong one, would be the Arcturians and Arcturus, because of their military prowess, and I love that. That just like really gets me going. But I've joked, but I'm not even joking, for a long time, I really think I am about as terrestrial as they come. You know what I mean? Like a true hobbit, a true earthling. I adore this place. I tend to think that this place has within it everything that we need, including doors, portals to other star systems. So I feel like it all is encompassed within this beautiful, this beautiful being that we share this life with. She's our great mother, and within her, I'm telling you, I think I call them jump off points, and I see them in my mind's eye all the time. They are locations on the planet, albeit some are very remote, you can't get there, but they're jump off points, and from there you can reach these star systems. They're states, anyways, they're states of consciousness. So, and something about being in these particular regions of this planet, it's like, it's very, that's where you can merge with that. So, but yeah, I don't want to go anywhere. I have no desire to get on any ships and go anywhere. I know a lot of people do. But I think I'm here for this. I like it here.
That's all. I saw one of those jump points when I was a kid, and it was very emotional. It was, obviously like in a dream in the astral state, but it was a friend, and she was my best friend, and she was so excited because she finally found me, like here again, and she didn't look human at all, but we were in this cave, and it was a portal, and she was so excited. She goes, now that we found each other, you can come here anytime and we can hang out again. And she kept saying, like, don't forget where this is at, don't forget where this is at, so that we can find each other again. And it was so interesting because I can clearly see this swirling movement, kind of like catty corner on the floor of this cave. Then is like, you could just go, you could literally see the other world through it,
behind it, in it.
Yes, in it. Yes. Yeah. So yeah,
wild.
I know they exist here. So
do you by chance think, before we wrap it, would you be able to pull one more card for like the kids
Absolutely.
today,
Yeah,
that are growing up, and the future, what's at stake for them, or with the kids in focus? Can I do that?
Starseeds. Absolutely. So this message is for the children starseeds that are here with us at this time, and more starseeds to come that are waiting on the other side, waiting to come in. So this message is for them, the young ones. Ooh, we got a jumper. So we have the Knight of Pentacles here. Let me hold that up much clearer so you can see. I've got that light is really bright. There we go. So the Knight of Pentacles. So this is an earth energy. All right. So Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. The first thing that tells me is that we are talking about how they fare in the terrestrial realm. Okay. This card has a lot to do with working in fields, plowing, anything pertaining to agriculture and work. As far as pace and energy, the Knight of Pentacles takes the long road. This is the type of thing that will take some time. This to me implies that there will be a lot of retrospective moments where these kids, they're older and they're looking back, because the thing about this card, as you can see here, he's got some agricultural like tools, he's got his shield, he's got his armor, his horse is resting. He's looking back on everything he had just done, and it's kind of this retrospective moment, and he's thinking about everything. But I think for the kids, this is looking back on everything. They will have record of everything that was said and that was done. And I think we inherently, intuitively knew that would be the case, because just for myself, my personal fear was that my kids would look at me and be like, why didn't you do something? Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you fight? Because it's like you said earlier, if we don't do what we came here to do, our kids are inevitably going to have to pick up where we left off, and we don't want to do that, because they're equipped with they have different skill sets than we do. We were built for this time to clear the way, clear the field, so that they can essentially plant it, grow it, and create something better. So let's see what else we've got. I do feel my gut tells me that the males specifically, the males now, the young ones and the ones coming in, will have a much more like fundamental, deeply ingrained connection with the earth, and specifically seeds and plants. They have almost like the seeds really want to grow for them. They're like, so new ways of agriculture, new understanding of what, things like produce and flowers and what those things really are, which I feel is an expression of the world behind the world, the real world. When it comes through a plant, it's like, oh. So let's see, let's get something else for the star seeds, the young ones now and the ones yet to be born. This earth has a lot for us. Whether you're from here or you're just visiting or you decided to volunteer, yay! All right, so we have the Three of Cups, which is abundance. Okay, Three of Cups is abundance. It's very celebratory. I like that we have the masculine and the feminine, so this is both sides of it. What I love the most about the Three of Cups in this aspect is its teamwork. So there's three of us women right here. As a matter of fact, like, this is a very Three of Cups moment where the three females come together, enjoy, we're doing something that we love to do, and this is very celebratory. Everybody's having a good time. So the Three of Cups does imply, especially together, they will derive a true sense of joy and satisfaction from doing the work. To them, I think even work will look different to them. I don't think they're going to have the same type of work setup that we had. It looks like they'll be totally satisfied with just the concept of making things run smoothly. And that's where they derive their pleasure, is like, look, everybody is provided for. Everybody has what they need. The women can relax. There's something here about like women feeling calm. So these young female star seeds, they may grow, and because the males have such a deep understanding and have someone, hopefully us and people like us, have really facilitated their inherent connection with earth, they step up and do what's necessary to create this within the females. So it looks like a nice balancing or restoration of the masculine and feminine, which hopefully that happens sooner than later, because I've about had it with the weirdness. Do you know what I mean? With all the inversion and bastardization of gender and what have you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yay! I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Oh, that's just it's gonna be great, guys. It really, really, truly is. Yep.
We just got to get through this crunch. We got to get through, I think mostly it's the pressure of other people, which is why that exercise that you were just talking about is so vital, because really, if you're okay, then what else is there, and there are going to be millions of people that don't understand what's going on, and they're taking everything that they're seeing and feeling at face value. And then we're just really going to have to step up and at least offer a different perspective. They'll still have the ability to choose fear or hope, death or life. So
yep, absolutely. In regards to kind of like how your cards mention, a new way of doing things, I kind of feel like this blip was the intro to it, because everyone's now looking about how we do that 9 to 5, that rat race, it just, everything just screeched to kind of that halt. And now as people are looking to, we're going back, they're looking at new ways to do it. And so, and even in regards to the schooling for the kids, it was like that moment where we all just caught our breath for a second. So, it's looking for the silver lining over what went through. And I think that's going to continue on. So I kind of feel like the blip was actually the jumping off point for this new way. Then this new way, like, yeah, I don't know too many people. I don't know anybody who is wanting to go back to that rat race cycle. No one wants to go back to that.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right there with you.
Jenny, thank you so much for being here. How can everybody find you? What's the best way to connect?
So I do have a website if you'd like to get a reading for me. I actually recently adjusted my rates due to inflation. I'm all too familiar with having to choose between, do I need to get this massage and my nails done and this, session over here, or should I, I've got rent, groceries, and gas. So I wanted to be very conscious of that this year specifically, and just make myself more affordable, more accessible to people. Really so that I can be of greater service. But if you'd like to get a reading with me, you can find me on jennyconstantine.com. So that's my official work website. And also social media. Jenny Constantine is my Facebook. It's kind of, like I said at the beginning of our podcast here, my aesthetic and my social media presence, like I love to troll. I like to be almost like a, like an extra version, not extra virgin, extra, like an extra version of myself. Because I think it's really funny, and I like to be a mirror for people. So typically what people see and feel and experience when they see me and engage with me, it's very often a reflection of where they're at. So, and it has very little to do with me. I've noticed. And I guess the same could be said for lots of people, but I've just learned over the years, like, go ahead and let it fly. Like, be that big, bold light, because the people that are really meant to interface with you and engage with you, they'll find you. But, keep yourself small, censor yourself, and you kind of tiptoe. Like, no, that doesn't work. So don't be put off by some of my crazy memes. I love to meme. I think humor is going to get us through this. So I crack a lot of jokes. I try to, that's just the way it is. Some people don't like it, someone's like, oh man, Jenny, really? You had to say it? I'm like, yes, I did. I did. So, but you can find me on Facebook, Jenny Constantine. And I just want to thank both of you so much for letting me come on and be myself and do my thing. And I love what you guys have going on. I know you're helping a lot of people.
Thank you so much, Jenny, for your time.
My pleasure.
I know as moms, it's always, it's tricky between just kids and work. It's, I'm grateful that you found the time to come on. It's the balance. Yeah, I know it's the balance.
It's the balance. That was my pleasure.
Yep. Thank you so much. And for everybody at home, you can find us raisedstarseeds.com and connect with Heidi at Raising Starseeds and Abby at Raising Starseeds.